Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order. If everybody can please take off your hats if you're wearing one, and please place your hand over your heart and look at our flag, and let's do our pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so very much. Please be seated.
We'll do a roll call vote. Roll call. Chair Reyna.
Present.
Vice Chair Ortega. Commissioner Andre. Commissioner Butler.
Present.
She's present. Commissioner
I'm
Coulson.
here.
Commissioner Riley. Commissioner Thedford.
Present.
Thank you. We have a quorum. We'll move on to number 4, public comments. Now is the time for the public participation for any person wishing to speak to the Advisory Redistricting Commission on matters listed or not listed on the agenda within the jurisdiction of the commission. If you are attending the meeting by phone, please press *9 to raise your hand. If attending by personal computer, please click the raise your hand button, press *6 to unmute yourself. Please state your name and begin speaking. A 3-minute limit is imposed on each speaker. Do we have any hands raised?
There are no hands raised at this time on the Zoom call.
Thank you. Now our Mayor Pro Tem would like to say a couple words.
I promise not to take more than 3 minutes. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Laura Betancourt. I'm currently the Mayor Pro Tem. I am the council person for District 3. That's the district that you're in currently. And I just wanted to zip on over here. I live around the corner. And I wanted to thank you all for being here and let you know that what you're doing is extremely important. I'm not going to stay because I don't want to make any kind of influence on you and your decisions on redistricting, but I just wanted to let you know how much I appreciate all of you being here. So thank you, have a good evening, and thank you for everything that you guys are doing and giving up your time on the weekend to do this. Have a good evening.
I believe we have a public member on the line. Please state your name.
We do. Participant by the name of Dave Bowman. We will be unmuting your microphone.
Hello, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing well, Senora. Gracias. First off, I'd like to go ahead and thank Councilperson Betancourt for her comments. And this is our decision to go ahead and make, as far as the public is concerned, because this, no matter what anybody goes ahead and says, this is our city. It doesn't belong to any one individual. It doesn't go ahead and belong to the police. It doesn't belong to the mayor. It belongs to us. And the decisions that we go ahead and we make here have to go ahead and be decisions that include all of us. Now, I don't have any need to explain the democratic principles to anybody in this room, but primary among those ideals is that the rule of we the people, those who are in majority, determine how government is run. And part of that is understanding that everybody has an equal say. Now, the AV has a long and tragic history of racism, voter suppression at both the hands of law enforcement as well as local government. Now, the California Voters' Rights Act addressed the issue of equal representation in city manners, and we're grateful for that. We should all be grateful for that. Now, the courts went ahead and determined that the city of Palmdale was in violation of the CVRA, and on behalf of we the people, this did not take long at all. As a matter of fact, I think it only went in and took 1 day to determine this guilt as far as the city of Palmdale is concerned. Now, the violation was determined almost immediately, yet convicted felon and former Mayor Jim Ledford with his current mayor, Steve Hopper, in concurrence, whereby they elected to argue that the districts themselves were, that they didn't need districting, right? And they went in and they spent like over $7 million of Palmdale taxpayer money on an issue that they could not win. Now, the number of Black and Latino majority is now nearing 73%. It's even larger than when the court decision was made and concentrated in both predominantly Black and Latino districts of 3 and 4. And the opinion of many, many people, this requires an additional district to include our Black brothers and sisters to ensure that this important community, our fellow citizens here in the Antelope Valley, is
You
also
have 1
included
minute.
in local government by allowing Black representatives into the city council, where they have been neglected for years, decades, even 70 years, when they were actually denied being able to go ahead and move into Palmdale and Lancaster simply because of the color of their skin. Now, this has to come to an end. The only way this comes to an end is by making sure that we have government representatives that express the will of all of our people, not just one side of town. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dave. At this time, I would like to bring up council member.
Thank you. Just wanted to say thank you guys for taking part of this process. I think it's awesome that you guys are here. I think that it's part of what democracy should really be. My name is Juan Carrillo. I'm a council member. I represent District 3, and I just wanted to come in and just again say thank you and keep up the good work, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Carrillo. Do we have anybody with a hand raised at this time?
No, not at this time.
Is there somebody in the room with a public comment at this time? Going once? Twice? With that said, I am going to open up our workshop presentation. And I would like to introduce the wonderful show of Kristen and Ryder as they come up to present to you how redistricting is done. Please enjoy. And I also want to put out that I want everybody to remember to tell your friends, tell your family, tell the people that you work with and travel with, this is your city. So you have the right to go out there and to draw a map that represents what you want. We the people means we the people, and that's why I'm here. This is really important for all of us. I also want to remind those people that are online that speak Spanish that we do have a Spanish interpreter here. So if that is a need, please don't hesitate to put that in the chat or raise your hand so that somebody can at least address that for you. Thank you so much for your time and for being here today. Go ahead, take it away, Kristen.
Okay, so first thing I want to do is have our Spanish translator come and take a microphone real quick and just announce to the audience that Spanish translation is available.
Hola, tenemos servicios en español para interpretación. Si necesitan, les puedo dar un audífono.
Thank you.
So we have interpretation into Spanish and English as well. If you'd if you're present here, we can give you a device so you can hear the interpretation. Thank you.
Palmdale residents out to our second workshop of the day. Beautiful setting here. And I have, ever since COVID landed, whenever somebody is foolish enough to hand me a microphone in an audience, I try to take a moment to give thanks for something. And right now, I'm pretty thankful for a well-lit room. And I'm also thankful for the incredible infrastructure that we have here in the city of Palmdale. This is an amazing facility, and the water park across the way is also pretty amazing. So God bless the taxpayers of Palmdale, and whatever grant money helped make that possible, but a nice community amenity. It's great to see those kinds of things available. Yay, local government. As noted, not only is Spanish language translation available, but this meeting is also being recorded. This meeting is being recorded for any number of reasons. First is transparency, always important. Number two, we want to make sure that for those of you in the public that have things to say today, that we get it verbatim on the record, whether it's being provided to us via Zoom, or it's also being provided to us by folks in the room as well. That also means that when you have something you want to say, please wait until this mic or the other wireless mic is put in front of your face. For COVID reasons, we'll stand a little bit of distance and hold the mic for you so you don't have to touch the mic. Just make sure that we're getting your comments captured on the microphone. And then, of course, once the meeting recording is done, we'll be posting it on the website for the redistricting process. So it'll be available for anybody in the public to watch. Come back and see. As noted, my name is Ryder. I'm with a firm called Tripeppi Smith. We do marketing, communications, public affairs outreach. We're working in about 24 different jurisdictions right now doing outreach work for the redistricting process. And Kristen over here is with National Demographics Corporation. They are a specialist expert firm that does demography work. So we're kind of the dynamic duo, at least duo, hopefully dynamic. I think we're pretty dynamic. And so they're the state's premier demographer. And I always just like to make that point because the city of Palmdale has invested in the best available demographer in the space in California, a firm that's probably done 90% of the district formations and is probably doing the most redistricting projects in the state of California this year of any firm. Yeah, over 150, so it's a lot. So they got a lot of experience, a lot of insights, and a lot of things that they can share in the course of this process, and that's very helpful. Now, we have kind of, I like to term this, it's today's goals and what the goals are, right? So number one, this is a very complex and esoteric process, and generally it only comes around every 10 years, and so we will be doing this again in 2031 after the 2030 census. As a result, it's complex, and it's a lot more complex than understanding potholes or understanding curbs or understanding streetlights. And so with that in mind, it's really, in order to make sure that you have helpful feedback, we want to make sure we empower you with good information. So the city made these investments to have us up here to help you out and make sure that you learn all about redistricting and the rules and the criteria that are used for that process and the timeline, and be very transparent. But after we've had our chance to help educate you for about 20 or 30 minutes, then it's your turn, right? So we might be experts in redistricting. You are the experts in the city of Palmdale. So we need to hear from you about things you're going to hear called communities of interest, as well as just generally your thoughts about representative government in the city of Palmdale. We're also going to take a quick tour through mapping tools the city's made possible or made available to the public, tools where you can actually draw maps to help come up with district ideas. I love this because as complex as this problem is, or this challenge of district formation, after we educate you about districting, we actually empower you to go out and draw your own maps. And Kristen will tell you that in the dream world of NDC, somebody in this room or somebody listening at home tonight or somebody watching this recording at 3 o'clock in the morning because they couldn't sleep is going to turn in a map that is going to become the foundation upon which the new districts for the city are going to be drawn. So we'd love to see citizen-driven maps come out of this process. And then last but not least, and I appreciate the chair of the commission making this comment about going out and telling your friends about this. We hope you leave here tonight not only empowered with how to be effective in contributing ideas and information to the district formation process or the redistricting process, but we also hope that you'll go tell your neighbors and your friends and get them involved, because we're still in the early phases of this project and there's lots of opportunity to continue to provide feedback as we go through. And then I would just say, why should we care? I would love to see a room full of people, and maybe as the process goes on, we will get there. But a couple fundamental points. I mean, this is all about representative democracy. It is foundational to good government. Democracy works better when people are involved and engaged. We benefit when more people are in a room like this, having conversations about governance, local issues and challenges, and working together to collaborate. Number two, while we might be experts in redistricting, you are experts on your community. So we need the experts to be out here sharing their ideas, and you should care about making sure your community is represented. And not only care about those communities of interest, but also share about your neighborhoods in particular and where those neighborhood lines are and what neighborhood you want to make sure stays together so that when you have your representative, you know your neighborhood is not cut up or divided. And then last but not least, as I said, this is based all around the census. So we're only going to do this now, and then we're going to have 10 years of the maps that we create. So it's a once in a 10-year opportunity. And so you should take advantage while you can for this decade. So tonight's agenda, we started at 5 o'clock, and Kristen here is going to work through the process, rules, and goals. She's going to talk to you about the mapping tools. Then we're going to have what I would call the homework phase of this for the audience, which is we're going to be asking you to talk and to share and identify communities of interest in Palmdale that you want to ensure we're aware of. So as maps are getting drawn, we're being conscientious of those and respecting those communities of interest. And then after we're done talking about that, we're going to do some next steps discussion about what comes after all this. I will say after the first 20 or so minutes of Kristen's presentation, we're going to stop and do frequently asked, or we're going to do any questions you have. So we'll come around with the mic, let you ask questions. We'll answer all your questions that we can, just to make sure you get everything answered before we move on to the communities of interest discussion. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to my compatriot here and let her take it away.
All right, good evening. I'm so happy to see folks here in the gym with us, as well as online on Zoom, because as I understand it, there's a sporting event going on right now that y'all could be tuning into, or maybe concurrently are tuning into. So thank you for being with us. What you see on this slide is the current district map. And the city of Palmdale only recently made that transition to district-based elections from what was an at-large system. Under the at-large system, every voter in the city votes on every council member. Under a district-based election system, voters within that district will elect one council member to represent their district. So you can see here the current map. It shows the 4 city council districts in Palmdale. And so hopefully you have an understanding, or you can look at this map, or you can go online and find out which district you're in if you don't already know. This is our starting point. Now, while this map was created just a few years ago, it was created using population numbers from the 2010 census. So we are in 2021, and we now have numbers from the 2020 census. So every decade, we have to revisit boundary lines. So even though these boundary lines are not 10 years old, what they are is based on information about the people of Palmdale that is 10 years old. So I'm going to show you those updated census numbers as well. But first, I want to give you an overview of what this process entails. And for those of you who are tuning into it right now for the very first time, it's perfect timing. This is the right moment to get involved. We actually did not have the official redistricting data from the state of California on September 20th, as indicated on this slide. That came on September 21st. Then the state said, oops, there's some errors in the data. And so we actually didn't receive California's official redistricting data until September 27th. So now we have everything we need to continue this process in a data-driven manner. Palmdale has decided to form an advisory redistricting commission. That commission convened for the first time on August 23rd, and that commission is tasked with holding these public workshops in each of the current districts to educate the public and to listen to what you all have to say about your community. After the commission receives all of the input, they will also be reviewing submitted maps. Ultimately, the commission will be recommending a proposed district map to the city council. The legal deadline for the city council to adopt that new map is April 17th of 2022. However, before the city council makes that final decision, there will be additional public hearings that allow the public to give more input and feedback on the proposed maps. There is a full schedule available on the website drawpalmdale.org, and I will be showing you that website in a few minutes. So this is our timeline. There's plenty of time available, and I want to say that when the current districts, as you may know, came out of a lawsuit. So what that means is that that was the districting process. In redistricting, there's far more opportunity for the public to have their voice heard and participate. So with that, you are here, you're part of it, and we thank you for that. In order to empower you to participate to the fullest, we want to make sure you understand the legal requirements around redistricting, because this is not something that is just a concern for our lawyers. It is also something we want the public to be aware of so that you can draw legally compliant district maps to be considered. So first and always foremost, we must comply with our federal laws. The federal law says that in redistricting, We must draw districts that have equal population. What that means is that our goal is for each council member to represent more or less the same number of residents. Second, we must also comply with the Federal Voting Rights Act. The Federal Voting Rights Act says that as we draw district boundaries, we must take care that those boundaries do not dilute the vote of protected classes of voters. So we will be looking at citizen voting age population by race and ethnicity. However, federal law also tells us that we cannot draw districts that are based solely on race or ethnicity. So we will be looking at other demographic information as well, including income, education, housing status, age, languages spoken, and more. That's federal law. In California, we also have a new law, the Fair Maps Act, that is going into effect for the first time during this redistricting cycle. And the Fair Maps Act gives cities a list of criteria that must be considered when redistricting. These criteria are given in a list that is rank ordered by importance, meaning that the first thing on this list takes precedent, and then the second, third, and fourth. I'm going to really quickly go over what they are. The first one is that districts should be contiguous. What that means is that each city council district should be one complete piece with no disconnected parts separate from that original part. That's pretty easy to accomplish. The second criterion that we're looking at under California law is to minimize the division of our neighborhoods and communities of interest. So when we're drawing district boundaries, trying to ensure that we're not drawing them right through the heart of neighborhoods and communities in Palmdale. Third criterion under state law is that our boundaries for districts should be easily identifiable. What that means is we want it to be obvious where your district ends and the next one begins. You shouldn't have to be a demographer or have to look at a map to figure it out. We'd like, ideally, those boundary lines to follow recognizable lines that you already know, like major roads or other features. The fourth criterion is that districts should be compact. There are many different ways that demographers measure compactness, but state law defines it as a district that is not bypassing a nearby population in order to include and encompass a more farther away or more distant population. So districts that aren't compact tend to be pretty strangely shaped. So that's one way to think about compactness. However, again, this is a rank ordered list. What that means is that criteria 1, 2, and 3 are more important than criteria 4. And federal law takes precedent over state law. So we have a bit of a hierarchy of our legal requirements here. I also have a column that's titled number 3, and those are tertiary considerations or other goals. And the reason these are here on this slide is just to make sure that the public is aware that there are other things that can be brought to the table. Traditionally, in redistricting, we think about other factors as well as these required criteria. For instance, if you are currently in a district that will vote for your council member in 2022, traditionally we would want to minimize the number of people who are moving into a district that doesn't get a chance to vote for their council member until 2024. So that's just one example of another goal that we can think about. However, we can only really think about these other goals and bring them to the table after we've already addressed federal and state law. So, okay. we can move on from the legalese, but we will refer back to it because once we start looking at draft district maps, we will be talking about whether or not those maps are legally compliant. And when we say that, these are the legal requirements we'll be referring to. So here we have the 2020 population data for the city of Palmdale, broken down by each of the 4 current districts. So what you see on the first line is the total population for each district and the total population for the city. We take that total population number for the city, 170,394, and we use it to figure out how large each council district should be. In an ideal, fair world, each council district has the same number of people. That helps us to comply with the federal law for equal population. So we take that total population of the city, divide it by the number of districts, which is 4, and then we get an ideal district size. So each of the 4 districts must contain approximately 42,598 people. That's a lot of people. That's part of why we're focusing on communities, because each of those districts that are more than 40,000 people are going to contain multiple neighborhoods and communities. So that's why we're talking on a little bit smaller scale today to hear your feedback about which neighborhoods and communities you think should be grouped together within the same council district. Finally, I want to mention deviation. And what you see on the second and third rows of this table are deviation. And what deviation means is just the difference from the ideal. So I told you the simple math that we have to do to figure out the ideal district size. Now we compare the existing population in each of the current districts to that ideal number. So what you see on deviation from ideal is the difference between the ideal and the current population. What you see is that District 1, for example, is larger than the ideal district size by 2,332 people. What does that mean for us when we're redistricting? It means that District 1 may actually need to give up some population to bring it into balance with the other districts. You can see that District 2, 3, and 4 have negative numbers for deviation, which means that they're smaller than that ideal population size. So districts 2, 3, and 4 may need to expand a little bit their boundaries to bring in additional population in order to get closer to that balance. However, we're not looking for perfect, exact population balance down to the individual person. We're not going to be drawing district lines that, split your house in half so that your family of 4 is going to have 3 people over here and 1 person over here, right? We're not doing that. We are following the federal legal guidance, which says that the total deviation, meaning the difference between the largest district and the smallest district, should be under 10%. So as you can see on this slide, if we're just looking at the current district boundaries, we can see that Palmdale's current total deviation is a little over 8%. If you want to know the math of how you get that 8%, it's not that difficult. You're going to look at the biggest district, which is 1, and you're going to look at the smallest district, which is 2. Subtracting the population of District 2 from District 1, you get that 3,446 number. Divide that by our ideal size of 42,598, and you will get that 8% total deviation. Okay, anyone who closed their ears because of math, I'm done with it. What the other stuff you see on this slide are demographic breakdowns by race and ethnicity for the total population of each district, as well as the citizen voting age population. We do have additional demographic data that I will show you on a map in just a moment so that you can get to know either your current district or the city at large and see some of that information mapped out. We're gonna go back for a second to the one legal criterion that we're focusing on today, which is neighborhoods and communities of interest. And remembering that California state law says that to the extent possible, we do not want to divide our neighborhoods and communities into different council districts. Why is that? Well, we want each community and neighborhood to have a fair chance to be represented. And so we want them to be able to be included within a single district if they believe that will help them be effectively represented. Most of us are familiar with what a neighborhood is. In redistricting, we also talk about communities of interest, and they're grouped together in that state requirement. So this state law also gives us a definition for community of interest. It's just a population of people in a certain area that share interests and want to be included within one district, rather than divided up into multiple districts. So in order to identify your community of interest, you really only need to know two things. One, what brings folks together in that community? What are the issues that your community faces or concerns? Do you have a shared history, language, culture? And secondly, where are you in the city of Palmdale? Is this a community that exists around a certain landmark that's bounded by certain roads or other geographic features? And I want to emphasize that there's really no wrong answer to the question of what is your community of interest. So please come forward and share that with us in whatever way you're comfortable doing so. You can do that by emailing us, by attending these meetings and making a public comment, or even typing into the chat. And I want to remind everyone, I don't have the chat open. I will open it during Q&A, but everything that you type into the Zoom chat today will enter into the public record as public comment, just as if you had sent an email or spoke into the microphone in the room today. So my favorite part, of course, is the maps. And those of you who are here in person hopefully saw on the reception desk counter, there are stacks of paper. And one of the things in the stacks of paper was our paper map. This is available in English and Spanish. And what the paper map is the easiest way for you to engage in this process by drawing either your community, your ideal council district, or all 4 council districts for the city. And what's printed on this paper map are the total number of people living in each of these geographic demarcations, so that you can actually draw a district and add up the population. And of course, down here, I'm reminding you of that ideal district size so that you can try to achieve population balance across the 4 districts. I like to draw on these maps with colored highlighters or colored pencils. However, if you just want to draw on a scrap of paper, as long as you're labeling it, that will be helpful to the commission as they are considering what changes that may need to be made to the current district boundaries. There's also a current district map printed out there that you can look at. And I'm about to show you, since this current district map is a little bit hard to see, I'm going to show you an online map that you can zoom in and out on. Within the next week or two, hopefully, We will also be launching an online mapping tool where you can do exactly what you would do on a piece of paper, draw your districts, but do it online. It's a very easy to use tool. It's called District R, and there is a tutorial video already on the website if you're interested in just getting a sense of what the heck it is. So let me go ahead and move over to the website, which I think I can just open this link, drawpalmdale.org. Let's go back to my slideshow, click my link, and now it's opening. So the city has established a website dedicated to this redistricting process. This website is at drawpalmdale.org. It has a ton of information on it, and I encourage everyone to check it out. Are you able to see this on my screen now? Yeah? Okay. So on this website, you can click on schedule and you can see all the meetings as well as agendas, PowerPoints, and video recordings. But we're gonna click on draw a map because I'm the map nerd, and I hope you will become one too if you're not already. Here's where you're going to find all of the tools for mapping. Why would you ever want to draw a map? Well, you don't have to. You could just give us written or verbal comments about where you think the boundaries should be, but the best way to participate in this process is to actually draw the districts yourself. In fact, as you heard my colleague Ryder say, it's possible that if you draw a map, it may end up being the map ultimately adopted for the next 10 years for the city of Palmdale. So the paper maps are also available on the website as PDFs. So you can download and print as many as you want, hand them out to all your friends, go grab a beer and have a district mapping party, right? There's also the training video for District R. There is a demographic data table that shows you some of those population numbers that were on my slide, but also a bunch of additional information. So you can download this PDF, see all this different stuff. What I'm going to show you is the map that we currently have available. It's not a tool for drawing districts, but it is a tool for looking at data and current boundary lines. So what you see now are the current districts. On this map here, the main thing you're going to be looking at is this layers box. And the layers box, you can see current districts is checked. So let's say you really want to zoom in and see where's that boundary line. You can zoom and drag. There's a bit of it's a bit slow to load. There's a lot going on there. But I'm going to go ahead and turn off current districts. I'm going to turn on a different layer so that you can see some of this demographic data. Percent CVAP stands for Citizen Voting Age Population. So these are the over 18 citizens of each of these race and ethnic categories. We can also look at factors like where are people living in rental housing? Where are people who have children under the age of 18 at home? So if I check that, it will automatically populate the map. And you might wonder, what the heck do those colors mean? That's when you want to click on the legend button, and it will show you that the red areas have 75 to 100% of the households having children under 18 at home, all the way down to the purple have 0 to 25% of the households having children under 18 at home. So there's a lot you can do with this map. It's pretty easy to use. Once you submit your draft district maps, they will be processed by NDC, and we will set them up as layers on this map so that you can see what other Palmdale residents have submitted as proposals. So I think this is a great tool to use. check it out. There are instructions that pop up when you first open the page, but you can even look at the satellite imagery. You can look at streets, the topography, all kinds of stuff. So please have fun getting to know your city and perhaps neighborhood and communities a little bit better. I am going to minimize that, go back to the PowerPoint, and open it at this time for any questions that you might have for myself or for Ryder. This is the Kristen and Ryder show. And if you are on Zoom, we ask that you raise your hand. If you're in the room, you can raise your hand too.
Let me start this off by asking an important question. Is there anybody here who doesn't want an update on the Dodger score?
It's tied,
It's tied.
1-1.
Questions?
Any questions from the floor? Any questions on Zoom?
We do have 2 hands currently raised. Participant by the name of Alina Schofield will be unmuting your microphone.
Hello, Alina.
Hello again. Thank you. 2 questions. One is, I noticed that you said that we can go onto the website and kind of dig for or research the data, but is there any tangible data that we can actually be given and in reference to, do we have to research that data ourselves, or is there tangible data available to us concerning who votes, gender, income, ethnicity? And once all of those maps are actually constructed, what's the selection process? How does that look like? Thank you.
So why don't we demo on the website there first, the access to the data? Go ahead.
Yes, excellent question. So I've pulled up, and I'll show you again on the website where you can get this, but I've pulled up our basic demographic analysis for the city of Palmdale. The variables here on the left are what NDC has calculated, and you can see we've calculated them for each of the current districts, as well as the citywide total. So we have total population, citizen voting age population. We also have voter registration data. This is coming from California's statewide database, as well as our voter turnout data. And then going back to data that comes from the Census Bureau, from the American Community Survey, we have age, immigration, language spoken at home, education, whether there's children in the household, some socioeconomic data, and then an explanation at the bottom of where that data is coming from. So you don't have to do all of that research yourself. That is, in essence, my job. But I do want the public to know that it's available if you want to dig deeper or if you want to look geographically at a specific area. So for instance, I believe we heard at our workshop this morning that there was an African American community around City Hall. So let me see if I can show you that. I'm going to unselect that layer. Then I would click on, and again, keeping in mind this isn't the total Black population, but this is the citizen voting age Black population. So you get this heat map again. And I zoomed in before to where City Hall was on Sierra Highway. What's the address? 38300 Sierra Highway. I'm demonstrating the fact that you can type any address in here and it will zoom to it, okay? Which is pretty cool. So it's zooming to City Hall, and if I zoom out a little bit, we actually will see that African American population that was referenced earlier today. And you can also click on any of these blocks, and you can get a whole bunch of data. Some of this might be a little bit harder to interpret, but again, if you're looking at the legend, the red is 75 to 100%, of the voting age citizens being African American, yellow 65 to 75%, then green, blue again, all the way to purple. So this is available to you, I think, primarily so that you can understand and define your own community, so that you can come to us and be empowered and say, I'm talking about this neighborhood in this area, and here's some of the demographics, and here's why I want that community to be kept together and not divided. So
it's really just a great way to explore your community and look at some of the demographics and have some really nice detailed maps. I mean, obviously related to redistricting, but in general, just to understand and explore your community of Palmdale. It's a great thing to do. The second question that had been posed was, I believe, was the process for evaluating maps and that methodology. So do you want to explain like the map approval review process? I believe that was the question that was asked.
thank you so much. You know, both of us, we stopped for coffee, but neither of us had coffee. So.
That's true.
I'm so glad that Ryder is remembering the second question that I should be answering, because this is my third meeting of the day, folks. So the process by which these maps ultimately will be selected, knowing that the city has to make this decision by April 17th, 2022. First, what's going to happen is the commission is going to review all of the maps submitted by the public. And every map submitted by the public, even if it's on a piece of paper, or if it's submitted online or in any form, will be professionally processed by NDC, complete with a demographic analysis, an analysis of which districts would be up for election in which years, and a explanation of whether or not that map appears to be legally compliant with the requirements that I shared earlier. The commission will be meeting to review all of these maps and hear public input on them before ultimately making a recommendation to the city council. At that point, the ball is passed into city council's court. The city council will hold public hearings on the draft maps, giving the public another opportunity to weigh in, but ultimately that the final map will be selected and approved by the city council. So that's an overview of the process, and there are many points at which you can engage with it, and I hope that you will.
Great. I think you said you had two hands, so.
Yes.
One currently. So participant by the name of Victoria Ruffin, we will be unmuting your microphone.
Hello, Victoria.
Hi, how are you? I'm currently a school board member for the Antelope Valley Union High School District. And I just want to say that this is an amazing presentation for our community. I'm also working California-wide on redistricting committee. So I'm so excited to get the information from Ryder and Christian. Thank you so much for your time. My first question is, I noticed that 10 years ago, I believe our population was about 145,000, and it looks like the data currently shows that we're at 170,000 residents from this new census. Is there any way that we can find out where the increases in the population are in comparison to the last census? That's my first question. The second question is there a way that the city of Palmdale is able to send out these links to all of the residents who are in Palmdale? I know that the information is available online, and the information has also been publicized in the Palmdale magazine, but I'm wondering if that is something that your organization or the city of Palmdale can do, almost like the alerts that people can get, because I believe that this is that important. So that's my second question about being able to disseminate the information to all Palmdale residents. And my last question is, for the unincorporated areas of Palmdale are connected to Palmdale. I know Pear Blossom, some parts on the west. I'm not really sure about Sun Village, which has historically been an African-American community. I believe that a previous citizen spoke about the ability for Blacks to purchase years ago in certain areas, they were denied. So I want to know if unincorporated areas are also included in this Palmdale data. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we don't have currently posted on the website an identification of where the growth for the past decade occurred, though we did see significant growth in Palmdale, as the speaker mentioned. Keeping in mind that 10 years ago, there were no city council districts in Palmdale. So what we could do is we could look at what was the population in those areas, but keeping in mind that those weren't the districts that we now know today. So I'm happy to do that analysis and add that to the website for sure, so you can see where the growth occurred. However, I would caution focusing too much on that, because for redistricting, we're focusing on, I want to say the now, but really it's on the 2020 census, because we are required to look at where people in Palmdale were living in 2020 on the day of the census. Technically, that is the number legally we have to work with. So that's the answer to that question. There was a question about
I can take the other two if you want. Yeah. So I think there was a question on outreach, and there was a question about unincorporated areas. I think on the unincorporated areas one, the answer is it's unincorporated. So it's not part of the city. So it's not part of council district. So it's not part of the redistricting process. Fair answer?
However, it is part of the Los Angeles County redistricting
Yes.
process. So any unincorporated areas actually have a more urgent redistricting situation, because the County of Los Angeles is going to complete their redistricting by December 15th. So Palmdale has until April.
Yeah, so there's even more urgency in the timeline for the County of LA, and arguably those unincorporated areas are probably included in school districts, perhaps the school district you're a board member of. So there's a chance for those communities to be involved with that process too. But although, to be fair, anybody can submit maps. It's not like you have to live in the city to submit a map. But in terms of those areas actually being incorporated into council districts, that is not part of the data set, and it's not going to be part of the city unless there was some annexation process, which is a totally separate deal. And then there was your question about outreach. So I'll answer that question, since that's kind of my half of the equation here as part of the as part of a partner with NDC. So we've been working diligently with city staff, which is why, as you referenced, you've seen it in the Palmdale magazine. If you follow any City of Palmdale social media, it's been present on City of Palmdale social media. We've had it integrated into email campaigns as well, with pushing out emails to various community groups, and just generally integrating in all the platforms that are available to the City of Palmdale to try to make people aware of it. We haven't explored yet, and frankly, I'd have to have a conversation with the city about what kind of reverse 911 system they have to do text-based messaging out to the community, or some other element like that to drive a link on this particular information. The one other thing I will just note is that we have been making direct phone calls to community-based organizations throughout the Antelope Valley, with a particular focus obviously on Palmdale, since that's our client, trying to reach various community groups, whether they are kind of based on certain ethnicities, or African-American groups, or Latino groups, and talking with them about this process to make sure they're aware of it and they tell their constituencies about it, as well as churches. So we've kind of had the whole gamut of organizations we've been trying to reach out to, Kiwanis clubs, and you name it, all the kind of typical social institutions, to make sure that they all have a chance to at least be aware, and then use their networks and tell people about it to get involved. And we're more than happy to continue making that outreach effort and get people engaged in the process.
I was trying very quickly to skim over the Zoom chat, and there are two questions I saw that I can very quickly answer. Believe me, I'll be quick. The first one was with reference to the Federal Voting Rights Act, who are protected classes of voters? And so under the Federal Voting Rights Act, we are talking about Hispanic voters, Black voters, Asian American voters, and Native American Indigenous voters. So those are the protected classes under the Federal Voting Rights Act. There was another question about where can the PowerPoint or the packet be picked up. And this PowerPoint that I've given today will be available on the website on the schedule page, okay? Because all of the materials from these meetings are required to be posted there, right? So go to drawpalmdale.org and click on schedule.
I see a hand up for,
Yes, participant by the name of Dave Bowman. We will be unmuting your microphone.
Hello, Dave.
Okay, I figured this thing out. Now, I went ahead and took the liberty of examining a couple of federal statutes, specifically Division 1, well, actually state statute, under state and local reapportionment. And I went ahead and I found in, let me see, it was a subsection, no, under general law cities, subsection C.2, it goes ahead and it provides us with a definition of community of interest. And it occurs to me after reading this that the definition of community of interest has been misrepresented in both this meeting, this morning's meeting, and the meeting a few days ago. And I'm going to read it right now. Okay, this is the state issue. This is the state going in and making this comment. A community of interest is a population that shares common social or economic interests that should be included within a single district for the purpose of its effective and fair representation. That's quite a bit different from what the NDC has been going and presenting. And I would like a clarification on that point, if you will. Thank you very much.
so I believe if you actually read the PowerPoint slides that we have, it actually reads that exact section.
Sir, we're not going in talking about the PowerPoint. I'm talking about state law, sir.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that statement.
I said, we're not talking about the PowerPoint. We're talking about state law, sir. And state law goes ahead and defines community of interest very differently than what your company has gone ahead and represented in these last 3 meetings.
Well, that's certainly not our intent. In fact, we quote directly from the state law on the PowerPoint, and I definitely read from that in the presentations. So yes, we are fully aware of that definition, and that is the one that we're using.
Well, according to what it is, the state law goes and says what you're going and using is vastly different, because in the first meeting we went in, we started talking about parks, we started talking about police stations, we went in and we started talking about even separating communities based on how much money they make. Okay, so this is very, very different. And you know what? There are a lot of people that are going ahead and watching this process. Okay, a lot of legal people are watching this process. And I believe that this point should be go ahead and redefined by your association, by your firm. Thank you.
Yeah, so there's suggestions of how you can geographically locate that population. For instance, the suggestion being, you can use a park or a school or any landmark, because when we're talking about these communities of interest for the purpose of redistricting, we're not just concerned with, for instance, dog owners across Palmdale that have an interest in there being enough dog parks, right? That would be, just a citywide community. But however, if there were a bunch of dog owners living in one part of Palmdale, we would want to identify geographically where that community was, and perhaps they would be a community of interest. Perhaps it's a bunch of dog owners living around, for instance, a dog park. That would be a shared social interest of a population. And it's not up to NDC to determine whether or not your community would benefit from being included within a single district for the purposes of effective and fair representation. We leave that up to the community to tell the commission and us. So we do hope that you will be as specific as you possibly can be in sharing about your community of interest. And in fact, as soon as we wrap up Q&A, we will be moving into a discussion where you'll have a chance to share that specific information.
Thank you, Dave. Is there anyone else that we have? How about in our audience here? Does anybody have a question? Seeing that there is none, I'm going to open this up for comments from the public. I want to remind everybody that you have 3 minutes. So please keep that to that 3 minutes so that everybody has the opportunity to be able to speak. Is there anybody here in the audience that would like to make a comment? Do we have anybody online?
Yes, we do. Participant by the name of Dave Bowman, we will be unmuting your microphone.
Hello, Dave.
Thank you, Senora.
Welcome.
I went ahead and I also took the liberty of taking and looking up the decision by the court in relation to establishing the districts here. And the reason I'm so adamant about my positions and a close definition of the law is because even when those decisions and those districts were going ahead and being drawn, there was still an attempt by the representative of the city of Palmdale to gerrymander based on locations of incumbent city council people. Now, this is the problem that we have always gone ahead and faced here in Lancaster, is a continuous gaming by our local politicians to go ahead and either exclude us or disregard the people of color here in the Antelope Valley. And I'm telling everybody out there that's going ahead and listening, we can't let this slide. We have to go ahead and start showing up at city council meetings and start telling these guys that they can't keep on ripping us off because they know the rules and we don't. We have to go ahead and get out there. We have to understand the rules and we have to participate, or we can guarantee ourselves another 10 years of living the way we do now. Poor, with the cops going ahead and persecuting us, without decent education for our children. These are all things that are affected by what's going on with this district. Okay, so guys, get involved because these guys have been ripping us off for half a century. Let's get real. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment. I do want to say that the city council does have the ultimate decision-making authority over this final district map. And if that is something that you wanted to change for the next redistricting cycle, I encourage you to get involved and change that. Unfortunately, that's what's in place right now. Unfortunately for the comment that you made. Oh, I can't respond to public comment. I'm so sorry.
Okay, is there anyone else online?
Not at this time. Oh, actually, yes. 2 just popped up right now. Participant by the name of Alina Schofield, we will be unmuting your microphone.
Okay, at this point, I also want to remind everybody that I would like to hear your community interests at this time, please. That was, interests that involve your community. Thank you. Go ahead, Elaine.
Yes, at the earlier meeting, I had given a few community interests, but I inadvertently forgot to mention immigrants, because we do have a population of immigrants and Spanish speakers here in the Palmdale city. I'm like Dr. Ruffin. I've told you once, Christian and Ryder, you're doing an excellent presentation. But I want to know how I can get involved, and is it too late to be a part of being on the commissions, or have you already selected everybody?
Hi, everybody. This is Shant Taslakian, Assistant City Attorney. So just to clarify, there's been a slight irregularity in the meeting. We already had public comment portion, but the chair did open up for a second opportunity, and that's fine. The public comment portion is an opportunity for the public to once again provide a comment. If you do have a question, unfortunately we can't answer it given California public meeting rules. However, we'd be happy to reach out to try to see if we can answer your question off the record in regards to issues that you might have during public comment. But this time it is only for comment purposes and it will be limited to 3 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Did you want to add anything of interest to your community that you did not at the last meeting? Okay, that's fine. Do we have any other speakers?
Yes, we do. Participant by the name of Dave Bowman, we will be unmuting your microphone. He already spoke?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Wait a minute. What do you mean he already spoke?
Is there anybody else?
Yes. Participant by the name of Norma, we will be unmuting your microphone.
I would like to hear more about what Dave has to say. Let's not stop him from saying what he wants to say. He has valid points.
Are you there, Norma? Is there another hand raised? Are there any hands here in the audience this evening? Okay, with that, can I get a motion to adjourn? Can I get a second? We have a motion to adjourn and a second. With that, I'm going to go ahead and close this meeting. I thank everybody for their participation this evening, and I want to really give people this opportunity to please remember, you go to work, people that live here, talk to them about going to drawpalmdale.org. You go to church if you're on a commuter bus or you're in a van pool or you're on the train. Do the same thing. This is our community, and we want everybody to be able to draw a map and put input into this future of our city. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful evening. Thank you, Kristen, and wonderful, wonderful
Thank you.
show.